Okay, shall we study a little Talmud? Oh yeah, we should do Mincha. Everyone pay attention. I tried to let you out of it, but Cantor insisted.
The Lord insisted. I had nothing to do with it.
Lord. Wait, is that your new name? The new title? The Lord Cantor.
Yeah, you could do that. I could call Marcia maybe. She usually comes to pick me up anyway, so.
No, just tomorrow. You said we give place tonight? Well, it's today.
Oh, then it's, all right, well, what can we do?
170.
אשר שבתך עוד יללוך סלה. תהילת אדוני בפיו, וברך בצד שקודשו לעולם ועד, ואנחנו נברך ים, מעתה ועד עולם הללויה, ובא לציון גואל שברכו יום אדוני. אדוני דבר יד, ויבטחו בך ידי שמך, כי לעזת ראשך, אדוני, אדוני עבדך צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויאדיר. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. Yeah, page 190. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נדע שמיים וסדרה, שמשם בקדוש שמיים אשר זר. ימחת שחיים, ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
But the focus today from Masechet Sanhedrin, which is what I've been studying myself, kind of just Torah Lishma, Torah for its own sake, is very hypothetical. It's theoretical. Like it's a lot of things that never actually existed and would never exist. Because the rabbis in Babylonia or in Eretz Israel, in Palestine at the time, were imagining what would the Sanhedrin look like, how would it function if it had total control over life, which we rarely did. We rarely had both religious and political control of ourselves. So when we talk about, like in Masechet Sanhedrin, if we talk about the application of justice, especially with regard to like capital crimes, then we're speaking really theoretically. These were not ever carried out in this way. It's more to explore ideas and to tease it out and to kind of perhaps get ready for a time when it might be that we have that responsibility, or to figure out what are the values at play here. So I'm giving that long preamble so that no one says, the rabbis say this about capital punishment or something like that, because it's, this is not meant to be taken as halakha. It's more this conversation where the rabbis are trying to figure out, like, how are these rules that they read in the Torah, how would we apply them? How would they make sense? How would we, go about them? So in the Torah, right, it tells us that there's certain crimes that are punishable by the death penalty. Some of them have to do with crimes against other people, and some of them have to do with ritual crimes. But let's kind of separate from that, just from, for the purposes of the conversation, because it's, I think, going to be helpful in terms of getting into the topic that I was that I want to bring up. So it's theoretical, but at the same time, there are certain procedures, certain ideas that are present in the practice of the law that teaches something or that represent Torah values, right? So in the Torah, it's very explicit, for example, that a person cannot be convicted of a crime based only on the testimony of one witness. You have to have two witnesses that can corroborate one another, right? And if it's a capital crime, a person cannot convict themselves. They can't, self-incriminate. And this is going back all the way to the Torah. So those are pretty big bars that we have of protection for people from being misprosecuted, right? If you need at least two witnesses, that's a pretty big bar. And you can't be used to testify against yourself. That's also a protection, right? Another one is that for the witnesses, they have skin in the game. They are invested in what's going on because, for at least two reasons. One is that if they lie, and it's proven that they lied, they are subject to the penalty that the person they were testifying against would have been subject to if they'd been convicted. That's a pretty big impediment, right? Like, to being honest. But another one, in the case of capital crimes, is that the witnesses themselves have to participate in the prosecution of the sentence. Or the administration of the sentence. They have to participate in the execution. Yeah. So they have to, like, so I see Lisa's making a face. Well, yeah, so I can give you the example with stoning, which is not like it looks like in The Life of Brian. I only said that this was a piece of fish good enough for Jehovah. No, sorry. Not the one for the British accent, am I? So, and actually stoning is the example that's brought out where I'm at in Sanhedrin, so that's goes along with it. I wanted to ask a theoretical question before we get into the details, because the details will maybe become salacious or become like hot. So we'll get to those, but I wanted to first have a theoretical conversation.
I think the problem is you're saying that it is, like it's not supposed to happen. But in the Muslim countries, if somebody, they still, somebody steals, they cut their hand. There is a stoning of, they even made a movie, it was called Stoning of Soraya, which was, a woman who supposedly, and actually she was not guilty, but she had an affair with somebody else, and they do that. So the problem is that we might look at it as it will never happen, but it could happen. I mean, there are people who are, you can call them fundamentalists, you can call them anything you want, that they do execute.
Oh, yeah, I would,
Word by word.
of course.
So
I'm just,
that's the problem.
when I'm saying, I'm only speaking within the Jewish world,
Right.
that we don't,
We don't do that.
yeah.
Right?
So, well, well, let me ask the theoretical question first, and then we'll get into the salacious details, so to speak. Is it better to have, if in your being executed, you've got to choose between a death that is more, I don't want to say respectable, but less embarrassing, or a death that is more free of pain, which would you choose?
Yourself?
It's for yourself. Would you, because when they're talking about it, they're speaking from the perspective of the person being executed. Is it more important to have dignity, or is it more important to have the least painful death or execution?
In the Torah, it says that if you shame somebody, it's like you really killing them. But
The rabbis, yeah.
I would choose no pain.
Hmm?
I would choose no pain.
You would choose no pain? Or less pain? It's not no pain, it's just less pain.
Less pain, because if you're supposed to die, I mean, why go through the pain? If it's meant, that's my, I would
It
go
sounds like
with
the American system has
Yeah,
come
yeah.
to a point
Right.
where they choose the least painful
Right. They give it an injection.
execution. Yeah.
So I want to straighten something out, because I left the door open to interpretation. It's not that the person who's going to be executed gets to choose. It's that in the two sides of the argument, one group of rabbis is saying dignity is more important, and the other side is saying less pain is more important. But it's not that the person who's going to get executed gets to choose.
If we compare it to the American system, the current American system, that's one of the same. The method of injection
Mhm.
combines dignity and less pain.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's a good question if it does or doesn't.
Well, as far as dignity,
Ah,
it's set up so that the person who is being injected, because if they're being executed, he doesn't bleed, he, she, whatever. They don't bleed, they don't really show signs of pain even, right? Because they first inject them with something to calm them, then they
Yeah.
inject them, there's like a cocktail that brings them towards death, to give them dignity, you know, as opposed to beheading them,
yeah.
Or like,
execution.
or like hanging them. It's painful and it's
So
shameful.
my question is, in the Gemara, why does it have to be, why are the rabbis in two different camps?
Ah,
Why is dignity,
because that's a very good question. So, because it's not the same as the American system where they're choosing methods of, it's all the same method. It's just a question of how it's applied. One way, yes, very good clarifying question. So it's not that it's going to be, you get to choose, oh, it's A or B. The question is, it's stoning, which I'll explain like what that means in the Gemara in a second. And one of the ways they imagine that happening protects a person's dignity a little bit versus the other one, which doesn't, but they say, or they presume, is a better way to die.
Well, what about taking into consideration the nature of the crime and then the degree of
Yeah,
punishment?
it is.
Is there dignity in death? I think that's a very good question. Actually, it's one of the questions the rabbis ask is, like, what dignity? The person's dead, like they die, right? But maybe trying to have this as a theoretical is too, like, big and open. So let me go with the details.
And I know that there are different punishment and for each different punishment
Yeah.
in the Torah, it has, some is by stoning, some is by, different, and I think stoning is the most severe. I don't remember which one was more severe.
Yeah, stoning is,
There are degrees of which one is more severe.
yes, from their perspective, the stoning versus the sword versus.
Different crimes, they have different punishment
Yeah.
in the Torah.
So,
I keep thinking of Nathan Hale, give me living, give me death. I mean, what's more important?
Nathan Hale? Yeah. Oh, they were going to kill him anyway, but,
So he went out with dignity.
yeah. Okay, so this is what happens, right? And if it's a man or a woman, they are, and this is where it gets into the salaciousness, is that they're stoned naked. Now, the reason, according to,
Tony, what, I'm sorry,
when they are stoned, the person who's being stoned is naked.
or naked,
And the reason they give is that clothing might actually might prolong the suffering and the death. Which I'm having a hard, like,
but it's less dignity.
Why ruin the good clothes with blood?
another good question. Why ruin the good?
Again, what,
Why ruin the good clothes with blood?
Yeah.
They were merchandise, sell them again.
So what they do is the person is supposed to be marched out to the place of stoning, naked, and they're debating because for a man they put like someone carries like a cloth in front of them, and for a woman they carry a cloth in front and behind. But that's another thing to protect their dignity. Then they are brought up to a place that is that's twice the height of themselves. And one witness, so they're brought up to the edge. One witness has to push them at the hips so they fall face first onto the down, and the other witness drops the first stone. And then if they're not dead yet, more people.
Practically, I know did this ever happen, or this was just?
No, we have no evidence that this ever
This is
happened.
what they're all debating, whether they envisioned how this would have happened.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think the fact that it's so free-flowing tells us that it really had never, like,
So what do you make of the fact that they're discussing this in so much detail? As they would discuss just as easily, what makes the etrog,
yeah. Well, because that is really, the idea that our ritual life is separate from our ethical life or our, like, moral life is, our piety versus our emunah or our, that's a modern idea. They saw no distinction or no separation, right? Everything was part of the Torah. So why would they say that, how to offer this sacrifice is any less or more a part of the Torah that we should understand than this part or the etrog, even though the etrog is the only thing we're still doing, right? And I think for them it was a few things. It was partially a way of not surrendering a part of the Torah, right? Because if you only say that we're going to talk about or deal in the Talmud and deal with things that are that we deal with on a daily basis, then you're going to leave whole sections that you don't even explore, right? And that was not our way. And the intellectual exercise of Talmud, which is kind of, the best comparison I think is like law school. When you go to law school, I've never been to law school, but what I hear from lawyers, you go to law school and you're reading cases and talking about principles, but you're not actually being taught how to be a lawyer. So, that's studying Talmud, it teaches you how to think like a rabbi. It teaches you how to like interpret in the rules of interpretation and everything, but it doesn't actually teach you what to do as a rabbi or Jew.
I was going to say also, with the way you're describing, it sounds like they're trying to think about this as an opportunity to how could you
Yeah, and maybe if you're a people that's subject to someone else ruling over you and administering these kinds of laws, and probably not in as accommodating or thoughtful a manner, maybe it's a way of drawing distinctions between if we were in charge, how we would treat people versus how these people treat people or treat us.
But there are so many examples of when we were in charge and we weren't very kind.
So many? I mean, there aren't that many. Since the Hasmoneans, I mean,
No, long before.
oh, yeah, I mean, listen, pre-biblical, yes, okay. But since Rabbinic Judaism,
I think, the problem I see is, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I understand when they read Torah and they interpret and Talmud and
yeah.
but the way I'm looking at it, the rabbis came out with the idea that the person who's being stoned should be naked. And then, finding, they created, nowhere in the Torah, it is the word stoning, but they came up with the idea that should be naked. And then they came up with an idea how to cover them to keep their dignity. If it was something, you're going too far. In the Torah, it just says stone them.
Yeah.
But they come up with so much, they create the problem and they spend so much time
Figuring it out, or,
figuring it out.
yeah, absolutely.
Present a case that is sort of relevant for today.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It is relevant. Right now, they're grappling with the following situation. Ben-Gvir and Smotrich put forth a bill that they wanted to make into a law that terrorists should be executed so that they don't go into jail, because it seems that once they go into jail, they become
Yeah,
a pawn in a game that Hamas plays,
Yeah.
which is to kidnap
That's what
Jews
is right.
and trade them.
Right.
So they want to have a bill that if an Arab commits, a terrorist act that ends up killing a Jew, that they should be executed. The problem is that there are sometimes Jewish people who commit crimes against Arabs. And they're saying, right, now the Israeli law says that if the Arab is an Israeli Arab, he's entitled to the same judicial system
Yeah.
and cannot be second class into, a class of being subject to capital punishment, where a Jew who committed basically the same crime would be acquitted of capital.
Wouldn't be subject to the death penalty.
That's right. That's what they want to put in the bill.
Yeah, so they're breaking the Torah in so many ways, it's like freaky, right? The Torah is very explicit. You have one law, and it's not even we have, whether someone's Israeli or not, we have Palestinians who live in the territories who are under Israeli authority, right? They're under both protection and the prosecution of the military police, and the Torah is very explicit that there should be one law for you and for the stranger in your midst. There's no ambiguity there, right? So they're willing to find it because of political expediency and because perhaps of racism or ultranationalism. But yeah, we see the extremists of their people rampaging in the hills around Hebron, right? And actually having killed people, and the police they show up a half an hour later, don't arrest anybody, even though it's on film, video. There are Israelis who are there, trying to stop these things, and under Ben-Gvir, they're not even doing the little bit that they used to do, right? So, and what do you do about Yigal Amir? He assassinated Rabin. Yeah, he's still in jail, and he gets conjugal rights. Like, he's like,
Well, he gets every right that someone who's in jail is entitled to.
just comparatively speaking, he's not in a supermax prison. Like, if anyone killed an American president, doesn't matter what their personality was or if they were no threat to anyone else, they would be in the worst prison possible, right? He's in like a, you know, not a,
One of those like federal white collar, right?
yeah, like Otisville.
How come a country that has never executed anyone who wasn't a Nazi is
Not since Eichmann, yeah, we don't. They're trying to change an equation, right?
They're talking about changing that.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to change an equation. He's trying to change an equation that is really political, which is the will of the people in this democracy to do, I won't say anything, but to really go to, you know, to be willing to give up a lot of security, a lot of protection to free Israelis who are being held as hostage, even just their body when they're already dead, right? That's a huge, huge value. Like, it's just a very powerful thing. It's amazing, actually, that the war has been going on for
442 days.
16 and a half months, almost 17 months. And for the first year, that was kept at check, kind of in balance, or the urge to just do whatever was necessary to get the hostages home. And now that's been building and building. And what they're trying to do is short circuit that political conversation, which is one of the populists having a vote, and this is what the will of the people is, and say, well, we're just going to kill them so that we don't have to deal with our own people in a democratic fashion.
Also, it doesn't solve the current problem because they're talking about killing future
Yeah.
criminals, not the ones who.
They're not going to apply it retroactively anyway. So what's it going to do, right? They'd be better off if they could get the Haredim to serve. That'd be more effective, you know? But that would make the government fall. But yeah, yeah, so I don't know, like,
I don't have tolerance.
for intolerance?
No.
You don't have tolerance for?
For people who do violent crimes. No matter who they are.
Yeah.
Every time I see something on TV, and I have lawyer friends who calm me down and explain why, but you see this guy on TV burned the woman on the train. What legal system? Where's Snidely Whiplash? Put him on the tracks and bring the train.
No, and
Actually, he should be set on fire.
it becomes a burden because we have to finance the prison system.
Yeah.
And how many years of appeals is he gonna get?
And free lawyers.
Well, the prison system wasn't meant to incarcerate, it was meant to rehabilitate.
But now with the.
Wow.
Does it really rehabilitate?
I think it's like a nice interpretation. I don't know if it's ever, yeah, Shawshank, right? Well, that's a pretty ugly thing. And also, I don't know if the article I read was accurate, but it said that, like, a police officer just walked by, nobody did anything.
She was sleeping, apparently.
Had been, yeah.
He set her on fire while she was sleeping. I can't even
And
imagine.
fan the flame with his shirt.
That's what I heard, yeah. That's what the article said, at least. and just calmly walked away. And not a good moment.
Things and you just have random killings in the street. People just walk up to someone and slash them, shoot them, stab them. I have a simple solution for it. I mean, after the fact,
Well, I'm not sure that's better than, or more effective, I should say. I don't know if that's actually effective, or what's more effective is, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but, you know, the approach under Giuliani of not tolerating the smaller crimes as well. And of, well, having just having an atmosphere, I mean, not tough in that, like, you're, like, treating them, well, maybe there were some oversteps there, for sure, but, and there certainly were, but a system where you take it seriously. We have laws, right? And we have a, you know, police force that, to its best ability, enforces that law equally, and then we have a legal system that also does, when the people are found
But
guilty.
do the penalties really serve as a deterrent?
That's right.
You don't think that,
If you ask the police, they'll tell you that the deterrent is not there, right? Because they could arrest somebody and bring them to the judicial system and then they get out. Just
oh yeah, for sure, that they're like, oh, we're gonna let it go.
cycling door.
Yeah, that part for sure, there has to be follow-through. I'm just not sure the death penalty is the,
The other night, we took a train to the city to see a show, and we were on the subway, and there was a homeless person, obviously homeless, I mean,
yeah,
and he was bothering people, he was talking to them loudly. He even pulled out, a bottle of something and was drinking it, but he was obviously drunk.
yeah.
The police should not allow him to be on the train. I didn't even get on the train, you know?
Well, you know, this,
And he just rides, he's not going anywhere. He just rides the train.
yeah, but, you know, the whole deinstitutionalization of people who have serious mental illnesses, that's not doing them any favors. It's not doing us any favors either. And, you know, the Torah does give us some pretty good principles, right, around these things. Like, we're not supposed to, not even not supposed to, we are forbidden from putting a stumbling block before the blind. Meaning, we're not supposed to put people into circumstances where they're going to get hurt, where it's predictable. And we know that people who have, I mean, we're talking about people who are, you know, with psychoses or with, not, you know, they have some sort of mental, you know, kind of challenge. They have a illness that prevents them from living with others in a way that is okay on their own, then we have an obligation to take care of them and to say, you know, we have to do that well. We can't, like, just put them off into, like, you know, storage and treat them poorly. But the answer to having people, you know, the answer to people being treated poorly earlier on isn't to then just say, oh, well, we're going to stop. You know, we won't be in that business anymore. It's to do it better.
We also, when we stopped at the subway station that we,
Yeah.
you know, were getting off on, I looked and there was clearly, you know, domiciles of homeless people, I'll call it, you know, the boxes and in the subway station. Like, why does the police allow it? That's not something that just happened to be there. Someone
Yeah.
had built that for themselves and is living there.
So a place to take them.
Yeah.
It's tough. Yeah, I don't, you know.
there must be some beautiful islands in the world, in the middle of the sea, to take them and, from time
I'm not sure that's got the empathy that the Torah is looking for.
By the way,
How much
speaking
money
of,
people spend to go to these places?
Oh, if we're gonna give them food and everything,
Where do you-
okay.
well, there's bananas there, and coconut trees. So the question is just to wrap up the.
Yeah, let's just
Back
get,
to the Torah,
yeah.
do the rabbis side with dignity, or
No, they have two schools. Right, there's one school that says dignity is more,
they're not gonna,
no, no. And in the Talmud, that's, it's rarely are we gonna get like,
it's up to us, where we usually side with Havdalah. But this is not a presentation. for
Yeah.
Havdalah.
yeah, this is more like, correct. Like, this is a example of the Talmud kind of living out the Hillel Shammai dialectic of presenting both sides, right? And presenting them in the best possible light. Rabbi Eliezer Berkovitz, who grew up in Eastern Europe, Central Europe, and then Berlin and England, was rescued before the Holocaust, the Shoah, and then was in New York and Skokie, Illinois. And he, in his book, kind of explaining halakha and why the Talmud does that. Why does it present both sides like that? Why in halakha do we always preserve the minority opinion or other opinions? And he gives a really beautiful explanation, and I'll give that, and then we'll daven Mariv, which is that, only God has truth that's permanent. We have maybe the truth of the moment, the truth of the majority doing its best to figure out what we should do, what the right way to go is. But circumstances change all the time. And the majority opinion could change easily when you have circumstances that change. So what would be one right opinion in one time might become the wrong opinion at another time. And so the Talmud does it this way, and halakha does it that way, in order to preserve that so that if the circumstances change, or when they do, we can adjust. And we have the resources and the material.
So in this case or other cases, do we know which one was the majority and which one was the minority? Because
Oftentimes we do.
don't know.
Oftentimes we do.
Present both of them and
Yeah. Oftentimes we do. Here we probably do because the case for a good death, in other words, a speedy death, is given anonymously, which usually means it's the majority, whereas the case for the dignity is given in the name of a particular rabbi. And so that probably suggests, that probably wasn't alone, but it was probably the majority.
so the,
But it's a theoretical thing anyway, we're not doing it.
so the majority is pain or
No pain.
okay.
Mari? I thought you guys would get into the salacious, the women naked, and, well, I didn't tell you the other part, which is,
And then the witnesses that women cannot be witnesses.
and they're concerned about,
That's another story.
basically about the impure thoughts of the Kohanim, who would have to be there watching as she was graded out. Harper-Ray,
Okay, shkoyach.
straight out, right? 137. Red.
Read 137, we'll start in the middle of the page, right? Baruch atah Adonai b'chol ha'am asher b'dvorom ha'rei v'ravei. אל חי וקיימתם מנוח עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב והרבים עבד רזו נמך ועבדך תשים ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ציצית. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, וימונה בני גזר וגמרי. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ובני ישראל לכנו שירה ושמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש הוראתי לו להוסיף אלה מלכות חרב ונחלקם לפני משה זה ליאנו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי יפדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל השכיבנו שמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל עד ברוך אדוני עולם אמן ואמן אדוני מלך אדוני מלוך לעולם ועד כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולמי תמלוך בכבוד כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה ברוך אתה אדוני המלך בכבודו תמיד ובחלנו לעולם ועד ועל כל מעשיו.
So we daven the Amidah quietly 142 to 148, and we have to include both the extra paragraph for ending Shabbat and Al Hanisi for Amidah.
עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. Page 150. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. We want to do that instead of the Kaddish.
I think David said he didn't want to.
There might be somebody on live stream who might need it.
Oh, we
There
could
is
have on the
a
live stream who needs
so
it.
we should do it.
And it's a new day.
You know,
so it's-
maybe,
Yeah.
Below.
Okay, so if you're on the stream, or if anyone else is on the stream, sorry that we were at 9 here, although valiant 9. I mean, I want to say Yasher Koch to everybody.
Yeah.
A really wise man who I knew a while ago, who had survived the Shoah in the forests of the Ukraine and then come to America and made a new life. Whenever we would get to this situation, he would say, well, everyone gets sachar chalicha. Although he would say it in his Ashkenazic, like sachar chalicha, pronunciation, but we all get the reward of having shown up and come. So, that's important, not to be dispirited because we came, right? And we're here, and we did what was right, and we just needed one more. Elio,
You count me twice.
you do think a lot of yourself, that's true. But we have the prayer in Bimkom Kaddish, the prayer that we say in place of Kaddish. So if anyone online needs that, we have that opportunity right now. So if you have that form, and we're going to actually, if you're online and you're missing this, this week we're going to hopefully get this up online on our website so that anyone can have it as well. We say Ribono Sha'olam, Elohai, or Elohei Haruchot L'chol Basar, Master of the world, God of all flesh, and it is revealed and known before you that it is my fervent desire to praise your name and to remember and honor my beloved relative. So now is when you would say the person's name and the relationship to you. By reciting the Mourner's Kaddish in the company of a minyan. May my presence here today with my community or online via the internet find favor in your eyes and be accepted and received before you, God, as if I had prayed the Kaddish. May your name, Adonai, be elevated and sanctified everywhere on earth, and may peace reign everywhere. And together we say, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed, and we can sing Oseh Shalom.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Amen.
Okay.
Okay. So we're supposed to light the candles before Havdalah in shul. I don't know why. At home, we're supposed to do it after Havdalah, here before.
With dignity or without dignity?
With any scrap of dignity we can grasp onto.
It's a very Christmassy looking, huh, Keith?
Or
Oh, it goes, yeah.
Festivus.
There weren't really many options. It's a pretty,
Is this with a blessing or without? I think we make a blessing only at home, right?
yeah, if we're not gonna leave the candles burning,
Yeah.
I mean, they say we should say the blessing, but then we can't put out the candles.
For a half hour.
So, let's, we'll die, and not say God's name,
That's what they want you to do.
right?
Why don't we do something?
Say Havdalah.
Let's do something.
Yeah.
Something we can say.
Instead of just-
Yeah. Da, 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 ya, da, da. Ya, da, 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 ya, da, 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 da, da. Ya, I wish you did Havdalah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen lai lai la 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 lai la 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei vesamim borei minei vesamim la 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei haesh borei meorei haesh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam המבדיל בין קודש לחול, בין אור לחושך, בין ישראל לעמים, בין יום השביעי לששת ימי המעשה. ברוך אתה אדוני, המבדיל בין קודש לחול. שבוע טוב, שבוע טוב, שבוע טוב,
Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov,
Wax on my hand. Shavua Tov. Shavua Tov. Oh, didn't I say Shavua Tov? Have a wonderful, wonderful week.
We gotta get going so David can get home. He's out.
No news is good
I'm
news.
starting to pack up and get rid of stuff, so that's good.
That's what
That's
you
what
should be
right?
concentrating on.
That's what my place is such a mess. It's
So what are you going to do with your stuff? Have you sale?